All right, it's that time of year again. You know the drill, setting New Year's resolutions. But what if that whole approach is, well, kind of broken? Today, we're going to look at a totally different way to think about personal growth, a framework that's less about what you do and so much more about who you become. Does this sound a little too familiar? You kick off the year, you're super motivated. You're going to go to the gym every day, you're going to read 50 books, learn a new language. But then, February rolls around and suddenly that motivation is just gone. And the guilt starts creeping in. Yeah, trust me, you are not alone in that cycle. But what if I told you the problem isn't your willpower? What if it's the whole idea of resolutions in the first place? We're going to explore a completely different path today. It's an approach that says, hey, real, lasting change, it doesn't start with some checklist. It starts with a shift deep inside you. And that brings us to this: reconciliation. This is a 14-part framework from the brilliant Kenyan poet, writer, and life coach Mildred Achok. And the core idea is so simple, but honestly, it's a game changer. Stop obsessing over what you want to do and start focusing on who you want to become. It's a total shift from action to identity. Okay, so let's dive into how this all works. Here's our game plan. First, we'll get into what makes reconciliation so different from a typical resolution. Then, we'll break down its three main parts: building that inner foundation, making the outward connection, and finding the driving force. And finally, we'll talk about how you can put this into practice this year. So let's start with that big, fundamental mindset shift. This is all about getting away from chasing a simple outcome and instead really focusing on building a new, more authentic identity. Think about it this way. A resolution says, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, right? It's totally rigid. You either do it or you fail. Reconciliation, on the other hand, asks a different question. How can I become a person who truly respects their body? See the difference? It's holistic. It's not about a number. It's about building good, sustainable habits that come from a place of self-respect. One is just a task you check off, but the other, that's a whole new way of being. Okay, so let's look at how this framework is actually built. And it all starts from the inside out. You can't really change your world until you've got a solid foundation within yourself. So this inner foundation rests on four key pillars. It all kicks off with respect, and that means respect for yourself, first and foremost. Next up is integrity, making sure your actions actually line up with your values. Then there's the power to say no. This is huge, setting those boundaries to protect your energy. And finally, you have to define your non-negotiables. What are the core principles you absolutely will not compromise on? Now, I want you to notice something really interesting here: integrity. In her 14-part framework, Mildred Achok lists the word integrity 3 separate times. And that is not a typo. It's a huge signal that integrity is the absolute cornerstone of this whole philosophy. It's like the glue holding your inner self together. So once that inner foundation is solid, the framework shows us how that new strength naturally starts to change how we connect with the world and all the people in it. This outward part is all about practicing empathy, really trying to understand where other people are coming from. It's about being candid and super clear in your communication. It's about taking a moment to genuinely acknowledge the people in your life, building trust through your actions, and in the end, showing leadership. And we're not talking about a job title here, but being an influence for good, just by being your true reconciled self. Okay, so you've got a strong inner core, you've got healthy outward connections, but what powers the whole system? What's the fuel that keeps you going when things get tough? Optimism. This is the engine. And, just like with integrity, Mildred Achok lists optimism twice in her framework. And this isn't some passive hope for the best kind of thing. No, this is an active, resilient belief that growth and reconciliation are possible for you and for the world around you. It's literally the fuel for this entire journey. So, this all sounds great, right? It's a powerful idea, but how do we take it and actually put it into practice for the year ahead? Let's bring it all together. So the most crucial point is this: just forget about that old pass-fail mindset of resolutions. The real goal here is alignment. You start with that inner foundation, respect yourself, act with integrity, set those boundaries. Then, from that place of strength, you build your outward connections with empathy and trust, and you power the entire thing with a deep, relentless optimism. And this whole framework leaves us with a much, much more powerful question for the new year. It's no longer about what am I going to achieve. Instead, it challenges us to ask, who will I become? What part of myself or my life will I truly reconcile in the year ahead? It's a pretty profound shift in thinking, isn't it? And it's all from the incredible work of Mildred Achoke. It's really an invitation to have a deeper, more connected, and ultimately a more meaningful year.